The brain is built for movement. Your brain literally lights up in ways that are not happening if you're not moving your body. Your brain evolved to control movement. That's all your brain does, is literally move things inside your body. It's doing all of this without us even thinking about it. It's moving fluids. It's pumping our heart to move our blood. Digestion is in constant movement, right? And all of this movement is internal, right? It's happening inside of our bodies without us having to spend a moment thinking about it. The part that we do have to spend a moment thinking about is how we externally move our bodies, which affects how the internal motion of the body runs. When we sit, we start creating issues that weren't there prior to a life of movement.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Welcome to another episode here on the Strong by Design podcast. Hosting today, Coach Chris Wilson. So happy to have you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing our podcast, the Strong by Design podcast. We have been doing this show now for several years. In fact, we are in season 9. We have been rolling since May of 2018 and have had just so many wonderful episodes along the way, ones that I've enjoyed listening to over and over again, return guests, and certainly subject matter from everything from body, mind, and spirit. I mean, really covers a lot of territory. Certainly, we've learned from so many experts in their field. I personally have become quite close to some people that we've podcasted with and started following them or listening to their podcasts. And it's been an absolute joy and a privilege to be in this chair. We've gone through some changes here on the podcast over the years with different hosts and people that have been part of the Strong by Design podcast for short periods of time or even for years. And the good thing is that we certainly aren't slowing down. We are continuing to thrive and continuing to find great new opportunities and bring back return guests. I have a few really exciting return guests coming up soon as well. So exciting for me, and I'm excited for what you'll be hearing soon. Today is a topic that is something that I've been talking about and working in this profession for, if I think about it, it's almost 30 years. So I came out of college, graduated in 1998, and from a university up in Connecticut, Eastern Connecticut State University, and moved to Florida a few years later, and been in Florida since. We are the home of the podcast is in the Tampa Clearwater area, and it's been a fun ride. But all of those years, from when I graduated until now, I have in some way been involved in fitness and health, in movement, in exercise, in strengthening the body, and it's looked quite different. I've gone from working in private, high-level facilities with professionals, business professionals, to working with young athletes, to working with our seniors, to managing and running fitness centers. I managed and ran a tennis and fitness center for several years down in Punta Gorda, Florida, and that it's just so rewarding to work with people face to face and to see what movement of the body can do for them, and in terms of their quality of life, in terms of their independence, in terms of their mood, and how in real time I would see it affect people from the beginning of a session to the middle to the end. And that was super gratifying for me. There was a stretch of years where I was doing training and coaching with clients as a kind of a side gig. I was working professionally in the furniture business for many, many years in the early mid 2000s. And during that time, I would still get up really, really early in the morning, like 4:30, and work with clients from 5:30 in the morning till about 10 a.m. And then I would go work what I called my real job, because for me, fitness was always just fun. I mean, I was working out and exercising anyway, and I just loved being around people in the gyms and the fitness facilities, and it was always so. I just got so much out of working with these different men and women from all walks of life, and got to see how movement of their body that looked different from person to person, what they were capable of, right? My training program for a woman maybe around 50 years old looks very different than my training that I did with, let's say, a client I had named Paul, who had neuropathy in all four limbs and was around 80 years old. So obviously that training session, very, very different from one, let's say, with Janet. These are real names of people that I work with. And or even my mother, there was a period where I was training my mom. She would come in several days a week, and I was getting to work with her while she was battling cancer, and that was like super, super gratifying. And to see her fighting and to see her pushing herself, and how physically she still felt really strong, even though her body was dealing with all these issues related to cancer. So I'm talking today, obviously, about movement of the body and its impact on our longevity, its impact on our overall health, on our cognitive function, on really everything. I really think that when it comes down to it, of course, hydrating your body is important, and nutrition for the body is important, and sleep for the body and rest is important for recovery and for overall function. But I personally believe that the number one thing that we need to do for longevity and for all those things I already listed is movement. And if we move well, intentionally, every single day of our life, and that can look different, obviously, from day to day. You're not going to do the same thing every day. But I think that that's the number one factor in how well we age, how well our body is able to fight off disease and chronic issues, and just in terms of our overall outlook and our optimism. I really do. I think it starts with movement. Many of the problems that we associate with aging are actually consequences of movement loss of strength. That's a lack of movement. Loss of balance from not moving enough. Loss of confidence, right? The less we move, the less confident we are in every step, and navigating steps up and down and so on. Loss of independence. When we move less, we're more reliant on other people to help move us around. So we've lost our independence to care for ourselves, take care of ourselves in our own home. And loss of cognitive stimulation. The less we move, the less we activate and stimulate our brain. Okay? And there certainly is something to be said for reading and for doing puzzles and crosswords and Sudokus, and all that stuff is healthy stuff for your brain. But it does not compare to movement of the body. Picking up pickleball maybe later in life, or tennis, or bowling, or some kind of activity where you're up, you're vertical, you're moving, you're socializing. That, for me, transcends anything that you could do from a seated position. I don't think it's even close, and studies indicate that this is true, that the brain literally lights up in ways that other things that you're doing from a sedentary kind of position don't light up. It's just fact at this point. So I have written here, I said, movement is not simply exercise. Movement is information for your brain. And the quality of our movement largely determines the quality of our aging. So let's look at two different people, maybe, for example. Okay? Let's look at person number one. So person number one, let's say that these people are both 75 years old, by the way. Okay, so person number one, they are active. They are independent. They're mentally sharp, physically capable. They do a bit of traveling. They do some hiking. Let's say they play some pickleball. I already named it. And listen, I say pickleball. I've mentioned pickleball many times before. For a while, I was general manager of a tennis center, so I played a ton of tennis. This is kind of before pickleball was a thing. So this is going back 15 plus years. But pickleball has exploded, obviously, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? And I just played just over a week ago with my own family. We all went, and it was really the first time my daughter had played much. My son had already been playing a bit. And first time my wife had really played, and they loved it. And so our plan is to go do that regularly. There's public courts not that far from us. So I just loved it. I had to have a little pickleball tangent there. This is a 75-year-old, though, right? And this person is engaged with life. Wouldn't you say if they were doing all these other things we talked about, they are engaged with life? Now, let's take person number 2, this other 75-year-old person. They are sedentary. Sedentary is just a nice way of saying you sit around a lot. You don't move your body very much. Sedentary lifestyle is a life of sitting, of inactivity. They're fearful of falling, this person. Why? Well, because they don't move very much. So when they do go to move, they don't trust themselves. They've lost a lot of their muscle strength. Their muscles have atrophied, right? And plus, along with aging, that'll happen at a faster rate. Okay, they're dependent, no longer independent, but dependent, meaning they need others. They're physically frail. Again, muscle structure, bone structure, all these things are weakening and degrading, and they're mentally declining. Okay, so what's that mean? Well, maybe they're not as sharp as they once used to be, and maybe their mood they're kind of grumpy old men, as you've heard the expression before. That's probably for good reason. Okay, so what created this difference between person 1 and person 2? Was it their genetics? No. Was it decades of daily choices? I would say yes. I would say that person number 2 decided that movement was no longer something they needed to focus on or make important in their life. And because of that, it determined a lot of other things. And as I've said, I've spent about 30 years helping people improve their health and their longevity professionally. I came out of college in 98. That first year, I got myself certified. I was attending a lot of workshops. I worked at a private training center from 2000 to 2003, working under the tutelage of Ben Prentice and Charles Poliquin, and learned a lot about strength training, learned a lot about activation of the muscles and what really works and what's a waste of time. And I learned a lot about dynamic movement and mobility, and oh my gosh, I could go on, but it really was a wake-up call for me how to move athletically and what muscles to really focus on. Focus on the center of your body, right? Focus on from the middle out. And when you focus from the middle on the hips and the glutes and the core, everything else benefits, right? The people who age the best are the people who keep moving. If that's the one takeaway you have from this episode today, the people who age the best are the people who keep moving. That's all you need to really know. And if you're not moving, get moving. That's about as simplified as I can get with what I'm talking about today. As I said, the brain is built for movement. Your brain literally lights up in ways that are not happening if you're not moving your body. I talk about this in my TEDx Talk. I'll make sure I share the link to that in the show notes. I had a talk in 2025, early 2025, about how movement lights up your brain. Your brain evolved to control movement. That's all your brain does, is literally move things inside your body, right? It's doing all of this without us even thinking about it. It's moving fluids. It's pumping our heart to move our blood. It's moving lymphatic. The lymphatic system. Its digestion is in constant movement, right? And all of this movement is an internal, right? It's happening inside of our bodies without us having to spend a moment thinking about it. The part that we do have to spend a moment thinking about is how we externally move our bodies, which affects how the internal motion of the body runs. Pretty cool, right? The better we do a job of moving our body physically, right, in motion with walking or with hiking or with playing a sport or working out in the gym, the better our body does. It manipulates our blood flow, and it manipulates our digestion, and it manipulates the lymphatic drainage and all of these things that are important that have to. And that's why our bodies, when we sit, we start creating issues that weren't there prior to a life of movement. And it generally does happen as we get older because a lot of aging people just are moving less. Now, that's not true of everyone. There's plenty of people that hit the 80s and are continually moving every day, and they seem like they're 10 or 15 or even 20 years younger than they actually are. They even look younger. Why is that? Because they never stop moving. Yeah, maybe they have a little bit less hair, or their skin doesn't look quite as vibrant as it did years prior, or you could pick on a couple of things. I mean, we can never escape the aging of our bodies all the way, but there's a lot we can do to maintain what we have. And I personally believe that movement is the key factor to that. I've had Dr. Charles Hillman on the show before, talking about his research in movement and its impact on the brain. My TED Talk talked about the hippocampus and movement's impact on memory and our learning center. Movement of the body is a major player in neuroplasticity, how our brains continue to change and thrive as we age, and on a whole list of different chemical reactions in the brain. So remember, the brain doesn't just control movement. Movement helps build and maintain the brain. Fit children have larger hippocampal volumes. Okay, again, the hippocampus, that central part of our brain and the limbic system. Fit children, so children who are exercising or moving more, have larger hippocampus. Movement supports memory and learning, which is that part of our brain. And the brain remains adaptable throughout life, again, which is neuroplasticity, right? So the brain ages well and stays younger the more it's almost like a muscle in a way, right? The more we're using it through movement and getting it to send signals to our body, and those signals are, we got to keep that neural pathway very strong, right? And the more we signal our body to move, the better our neural pathways stay throughout life. And like anything in life, when you don't use it, you lose it. Same thing happens with those neural connections. When we stop sending those signals from our brain to different parts of our body, to our feet, to our hands, to our biceps, to our quadriceps, whatever it is, the weaker those connections become. And over time, over decades of a lack of movement, that's going to have a dramatic impact on how we feel when we get older. So obviously, the younger people may be hearing this who are in their 20s or 30s, they're not too stressed out about their body's condition at all, I'm sure. But I think once you hit maybe around 40, certainly by 50, you do start thinking about, I don't move like I once did, or I don't feel like I once did, or getting up off the ground is kind of sucks, or getting down on the ground kind of sucks, or man, I haven't lifted a weight in forever, or I get out of breath when I go up a couple flights of stairs, or you name it, right? There's all kinds of things. If we are not moving our body, day-to-day activities can become challenging, can become exhausting, and they should not be. We should be moving so much in our daily life with exercise, with fun activities, with things that we look forward to doing that don't just feel like work, that when you do go to push your body at a hotel, walking up a few flights of stairs with some luggage, you don't feel like you're winded or about to pass out. I was just recently at a baseball tournament for my son. We basically took over a hotel down in Sarasota. The whole team with extended family, must have been 40 of us. And we were just on the second floor. I can't tell you how many times, because where our room was situated, that for me, going up and down the stairs was a lot better than going down to the elevator, waiting for it to come up to, and all that stuff. No, heck, I barely even use the elevator. I'd rather just use the stairs up and down. And if you forget something, you got to run back up the stairs, go into your room. And I must have gone in and out of that, up and down those stairs 50 times at least over the 4 days. And, I was never out of breath or winded or whatever. I look forward to just every extra step for me is a good thing. I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive. I'm proud of my body being in motion as a 50-year-old man. I want to feel as, I know I'm not what I was when I was 25, but I like to think that I'm still there at least and can do 90% of what I was doing at that age, just maybe not as fast or as powerful. So what are some of the key factors when it comes to things that are robbing us of the movement that we require? Well, we have excessive sitting in our life from I'm sitting right now recording this, right? I'm sitting in my car. I'm sitting at my desk doing work. Where else am I sitting? I'm sitting maybe playing a video game. I'm sitting watching a show at the end of the day. A lot of our life is spent sitting. Sitting in small spurts is fine. That's not what's hurting you. It's when we do it for an extended period of time, every day, all day, week after week, month after month, year after year. So you understand where I'm going with this. If you get to a point when you're in your 60s or so and you find that 90% of your day is spent sitting, you need to rethink your life a little bit. It'd be better if 80 to 90% of your day was up and moving around and doing something on your feet with some sitting mixed in. And so what's causing that besides screen time? The conveniences of culture. There's so many things that we can do from a seated position where we don't have to move. I mean, heck, we can order food from the grocery store and have it delivered. The only time we might have to get up is if we have to put the food away in the cabinets. We're deprived, frankly, of the daily movements that we were all having to do, let's say 100 years ago. Now, 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago, obesity was not really a thing. It just wasn't. People were on foot. People were walking more. People were not sitting idle. People had to move in order to function in society. Being up and vertical and walking was just commonplace. I'm sure if you averaged out the number of steps people were taking 100 years ago versus today, it would far outnumber it. Probably be 2 to 1, 3 to 1, or 4 to 1 in terms of steps then versus steps today. Obviously, some people are very active right now and are highly aware of this issue and are moving great in their lives. And I applaud you. But this is something that something to be mindful of in terms of how well we're aging. And once we stop moving, it becomes easier to not move, right? You get comfortable at whatever it is that you're doing, right? The average person sits most of the day. We know this. Less walking than previous generations, which I'm talking about, and technology has removed a lot of physical demands. We know this. Something that I wrote down here, most people aren't suffering from old age, they're suffering from underuse. So don't just think of, this person's older, so they're more frail, they're not as strong, they're incapable of this, they're less independent and all that. I think it's much less an age thing and more a choice thing. I really do. I think it's just an underuse thing. I would see people when I was working, in my local community there in Punta Gorda, and I would see, every day I was around 50 to 100 people every day, probably more. From people coming in using the cardio deck to people playing tennis to people doing the classes upstairs. Yeah, probably more like 100 to 200 different people a day. A lot of the same faces. And the people that moved the most and were there the most were the people that had the most spunk, the most energy. And this is aside from age. This has nothing to do with their age. There were people there that had more youth and more personality in their 70s than people that I knew in their 30s and 40s that were half their age. So it wasn't an age thing at all. And these people were fit. There were Les Mills were the classes that we were doing there at Punta Gorda Club, and there were people that would come and they were doing body pump and they were doing I don't know, say body shape, or they were doing all these different body combat. I mean, all these different Les Mills classes. They were doing the spinning, RPM, I think they called the spinning classes. And these people were amazing. They were obviously addicted in some ways to exercise, but that's a healthy addiction as far as I'm concerned for most people, that exercising and moving their body every day, I don't see that as a bad thing. Obviously, all things can be taken to extremes, but I don't see movement as a bad thing for most of us. As I said, the body adapts to inactivity, and so does your brain. Your brain will adapt to that inactivity, and it'll decide, oh, it's not important to send that signal anymore, so I won't send that signal. And if I do that enough over time, that signal won't carry as much strength, and it'll become a weaker signal, and to the point where that it's your brain and your body aren't communicating at all, and that's not a good thing. So I wrote down here the 4 movement pillars for longevity, and we're going to talk about the first one, which I have as strength. I think if strength is your focus when it comes to movement, you're going to do a much better job of muscle preservation. You're going to boost your metabolism. You're going to help insulin sensitivity, which we have talked about a number of times on this podcast when Dr. Boz has been on, one of my favorite all-time guests. Go back and listen. I think it's episode 409. We talk a lot about resistance training and insulin sensitivity, and it's fabulous. She's a wealth of knowledge. And strength really impacts your independence. So those are 4 things: muscle preservation, metabolism, insulin sensitivity, and independence. So you maintain better muscle mass when you put your body through resistance training. That can look different for everybody, but the basic strength exercises, you don't have to ever avoid those. You just obviously will limit maybe the poundages that you're working with. But I mean, I still love doing all the big lifts, dumbbells and barbells and body weight and you name it. I love doing all of them, and I hope to do them for the rest of my life. The more muscle you have, the better your metabolism is going to be. More muscle equals boosted metabolism. The more muscle you have, the more energy your body needs just to function, just to run. So your body, isn't going to be burning up a lot of fuel if it has a lot of stored fat. But if it has a lot of muscle on it, it's going to be constantly looking for stored energy to be able to maintain that muscle mass. So that's the beauty of strength training, right? Is stimulating that muscle, forcing it to adapt and to grow, and then your body going, oof, crap, I need energy for this. I need the quick one. I need glycogen, or I need fat is great, but that's where you have to be really smart about how you're eating and being able to take in a certain number of carbs and a certain number of healthy fats, and letting your body decide what energy systems it needs to pull from. But I'm not an elimination guy at all. I think carbs and fats are both good energy sources, and you should be able to use both, especially if you're really active. You should be able to use both and use them well. Let's talk about another pillar for longevity, which is balance. I've made a program several years ago called Neurobalance Therapy, where it's all about just being sure on your own 2 feet and just simple daily balance movements that you can do to stimulate the nerves running from your feet all the way to your brain, right? So what are the benefits of good balance? Fall prevention, right? You don't want a bad fall, especially as you get older. A bad fall could equal a shorter lifespan. certainly, but living with injury is really no fun when you're older. It's harder to recover. Better balance is improved confidence, improved coordination, and a better brain-body communication system. Okay, so with that added strength from pillar one, we get probably improved balance, right? So we're preventing ourselves from falling. We have more confidence when we move, when we're navigating steps, when we're walking outside the house, when we're going from room to room, whatever it is that we're doing, we're more confident. And confidence is a big part of just engaging in society. We're more coordinated. So coordination is a developed skill from when we're young, and you don't want to lose that. You really don't. That hand-eye coordination that we work so hard to get when we're 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. And then you just stop doing all those things that you did when you were younger, and then you're going to lose it. That's where I love the pickleball and the tennis, because that hand-eye coordination is so important, and reaction time, reacting quickly to a ball coming at you, low or high, or having to laterally move and stuff. And it's so much fun. It's like taking ping pong, but now you're standing on the table with these paddles, and you're in close proximity, and you're usually playing doubles, and it's really one of the most fun activities that I've done over the last several years is pickleball. So your coordination's improved, and your brain-body communication. You're sending all these really great signals to all parts of your body, and it's the way we are designed. It's the way we are designed to move. It's why when we're babies, we can't do all these things that we can do as we get older, because we haven't developed those pathways yet. When you're a baby, all you can do is really lay on your back, and then you start to roll, right? And then you start to rock, and then you start to crawl, and then you start to walk, and then you start to run and jump and twist and climb and do all these things. We're supposed to never stop doing those things. We really aren't. And when we stop doing all of those things, we start backsliding, or we start losing the capacity to do them, right? All right, so let's talk about pillar number 3. One of the simplest forms of exercise, maybe the best, walking. What are the quick, easy benefits of walking? Well, circulation. I talked about that internal motion of the body. The more we walk, the better we circulate. What's circulation? Well, that's our blood flow, right? The better our blood flow is to all parts of our body, to our extremities, the better job we do at providing nutrients and oxygen to all parts of our body. That's what keeps the tissues healthy. That's what keeps the muscles strong. That's what keeps the bones strong. Right? We want to keep all that stuff strong and healthy and feeling good and vibrant. Walking helps your mood. You ever look out maybe while you're driving or whatever, and you see somebody out going for a walk who's maybe 70 or 80 years old, and they just look like they're having a good time. They have a smile on their face probably. They're enjoying just being out in nature, getting some sunshine, getting some fresh air, moving their body in a way that's designed to move. And it really does help your mood. It's a mood boost. I recommend going. I walk my dogs just about every morning of my life for about a good mile, sometimes longer. And it gets me outside for 20 minutes. I get that fresh air. I get that sunshine. I'm with my dogs. I'm walking around my neighborhood. I see some neighbors. Sometimes I make small talk with people that I see regularly. It's a good way to start your day. I do highly recommend it. It's a stress reducer. Walking is a stress reducer. Okay, helps with anxiety, helps with stress. It helps you just feel more at ease, helps you feel more grounded. Motion of the body does help with stress. And then lastly, cognitive function. So our brain is happier when we are in motion, as I alluded to earlier. And there's a lot of science that backs this up. So I say walk every single day, maybe even try and walk multiple times a day. You could walk your dogs in the morning. You could walk after you have lunch. You could take an evening stroll with your wife, walk your dogs again, whatever it is. You go to a local school and walk around the track. You could walk around your neighborhood. You could go to the gym and obviously walk on a treadmill, but I like being outdoors whenever I'm doing that. You could go for a hike. You could go to the beach and walk along the beach. That's a wonderful thing to do down here in Florida. Just walk more, be in nature, go for a hike. These things are great, and these get you outside of the gym. The strength training part, 2-3 days a week of strength training is probably enough or great for most people. The other activities you should be doing should be play related, should be walking. There's other forms of exercise besides just going to the gym and lifting weights. That's great, and if you want to do it every day of your life, there's a way to do that, but it doesn't have to be that way. A little goes a long way with the strength training if you're doing the right stuff. It really does. 2 or 3 days a week, plenty. But if you're walking, I would do it every single day. Every single day, multiple times a day even. Okay, and number 4, already kind of came up, is play. Play. Pick an activity or something that is activity-based, or exercise-based, that you can do with friends. Certainly solo is fine, but I love something that you can do with one other person or a small group. That's why I'm a huge advocate down here in Florida. Golf is great, tennis is great, pickleball is great. There's biking. There's a lot of biking that happens down here. Obviously, there's a lot of different bike trails and sections down here for people to ride in groups. So that's great. Find something that maybe you did when you were younger, something that brings some form of movement should be high on your list of things you like to do. And you want to keep yourself curious. You want to keep yourself adaptable. You want to bring joy into your life through movement. And it does a great job, as I've already talked about, of cognitive stimulation. Your body has to strategize when you are thinking on your feet, playing a game like tennis or pickleball, where the ball bounces here, I have to move here to get to it, and I'm going to try and hit the ball to this area on the court. Now I need to move over to this area of the court and navigate this shot. And it's all about strategy. You're moving in different ways that are not the same over and over again. They look different every time. That's the beauty of hiking. Hiking on a trail, where you're maybe kind of going up and over things and around things. Every step looks a little bit different from just your average walk. So hiking is, there's a lot of science that backs up hiking as one of the best activities you can do for your brain, because every step is measured. Every step is kind of thought out or planned in some way. So I love that. Just absolutely love. I was on a trip, over spring break. This is obviously months ago now, but I'm thinking back to that because I think every day my family and I went on a hike. There were so many great trails around us in North Carolina where we were, and one we actually went back to, but did a different direction, a different colored trail. But it's just so much fun. We had our dogs with us. Every day was kind of a little bit of an adventure of going on a different walk, and you didn't know what that walk was going to be like. What that trail was going to be like. If it was going to be hard, easy, what. And it was awesome. I mean, I love it. So much fun. So, my quote that I used in my TEDx talk is from George Bernard Shaw, and he's a Nobel Prize winner. He said, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." I mean, think about that for a moment. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. Wow. It's great. It's very true as well. So the activities that you participated in your youth, in your teen years, maybe even into your 20s, those should be or could be activities that you're engaging in later in life, into your 60s, 70s, 80s, beyond. And my neighbors growing up in college, Ed and T, Teresa, but everyone called her T, even Ed called her T. They would go and they would play tennis multiple times a week. We had a local tennis court not too far from where we lived. They were my next door neighbor. And so I'm 18, 19, 20 years old, and we loved Ed and T. They were some of the nicest people you ever wanted to meet. They were kind of like our temporary grandparents while I was in college, and I'd always engage in small talk with Ed. He'd be out tinkering with one of his cars or mowing his lawn or doing something. And the guy was just about 80 years old. They had already been married for like 60 years at that point. It was crazy. But they would go multiple days a week to go play tennis. And he just got a kick out of it. He just loved it. He played tennis his entire life. He lived to be 96 years old. I talk about this in my TEDx talk as well. Lived to be 96, and they played tennis well into their 90s. And he attributes a lot of his ability to move well and be independent to his playing tennis his whole life. And so these are the people I was around that I was learning from. And I never forgot these things. They made a massive impression on me, obviously. I mean, I'm in my teenage years, 20 years old, in the best shape of my life, but yet I was understanding in a very real way that what I was doing needed to continue later into my life, and that exercise and fun and play and all that stuff I was doing with my brothers at the time had a lot of value to it, and we should never stop doing it. So what's the fear that a lot of us have when it comes to aging? Well, I think if you think about it for a second, you'll probably come to this conclusion, but I think the greatest fear that most of us have as we get older is us losing our capacity to remember, to think, experiences, of forgetting people, forgetting names, forgetting places, losing our minds in essence. And, things like dementia, there's a lot that has been continuing to come out over the years of dementia and Alzheimer's and these things. It's a form of cognitive decline. It's a form of our brain not performing at its highest level, right? As we age, we can lose some cognitive function, but a little bit here and there is kind of understandable, especially if we're into our 80s or 90s. We're going to have maybe a little bit of a drop off there, maybe not as sharp or not as quick-witted, but like I said, I've been around a lot of people who are older, who are in that demographic of 80s and 90s, and they're pretty sharp. And I really do attribute a lot of that to, certainly genetics is some of that, but I think it's lifestyle choices is the bigger part of it, and that they've been big advocates, most of them, to movement and to participating in life and being independent. Losing that independence to me is like terrifying. I don't want to be somebody that's reliant on someone else just to go use the bathroom or to fix a sandwich for myself or to, go somewhere, visit a friend. I would like to still be able to do those things for myself well into my 80s and beyond. I think we fear that more than we've probably feared death itself, because none of us truly knows what it is to die, because we aren't able to come back and talk from it. But I think a lot of us, know what it is to have someone in our life who's maybe had some kind of cognitive decline. We've maybe been around a grandparent or a neighbor or a coworker or somebody that's older that shows signs of cognitive decline, and that can be quite frightening, where you feel like you're that part of that person has been lost, and that's truthfully what is happening, right? They're kind of losing some of themselves as you lose the capacity for your brain to do everything that it once did. And I'm just a firm believer that it's movement that drives all of this. And the better we are at moving our body every single day in different ways, it's supposed to look different. It shouldn't just be completely, some of it's habitual, right? The habitual walk I do with my dogs or going on the same route. Okay, I understand that. But certain activities, like playing a game with your friends, your movement patterns are going to be different from one day to the next, or how you're training in the gym should look different from one day to the next, the exercises that you're doing. I just am such an advocate for movement being a focal point for all of us, and that we never should stop. We should never stop the movement of our body, because once we decide to stop is when other things decide to start, which is the aging factor. I think it goes up exponentially once we are idle. Once we're sedentary, once we're idle, that's where I feel like our body says, okay, no more signals, I can stop performing this function. And things start shutting down fast, and it's very hard to get them back once we've decided to stop. So we've talked about, obviously, the most important thing being movement. We've talked about a little bit at the beginning. I mentioned sleep. Obviously, sleep is a huge part of that, getting good quality sleep. So obviously, movement is number one, but I would say right behind that is how we're resting our body. I mean, about a third of our life is spent sleeping. Well, that must be pretty important if it's a third of your entire life. You don't spend a third of your life eating. You don't. But you should spend a majority of your day in motion. You should spend a significant amount of your day well rested or sleeping, right? So at least probably minimum of 6 hours to 8 hours of good sleep in a good environment, a cooler bedroom that's blacked out, right? That has a good mattress, good pillow. Like when you go to bed, it should be like kind of an exciting part of your day that you're looking forward to, like resting and to refreshing yourself and giving your body a break. I know my wife loves sleep. She loves a good nap too, but she really likes her bed, likes that environment, likes the room dark and the fans on and the air down and all that stuff. And it's important, and it lends itself to a better overall experience with your sleep. Nutrition, obviously huge. Be mindful of your breakfast and what you're eating let's say you're eating 3 meals a day on average with maybe some snacks in between. Where's that food coming from? How often am I introducing some different colorful foods into the mix? Am I eating enough? Am I having some salads? Am I eating good fruits? Am I eating nuts here and there? Or am I getting good fats from this? Am I not overeating processed foods? Am I making protein a priority? All of these things that you've heard about, no doubt, and certainly with this past year with Robert F. Kennedy really coming out hard against big food industry. This is good stuff that people are waking up a little bit to what good nutrition actually looks like, and you should be trying to prepare more of your meals at home and cook your own foods, and being mindful of what you're bringing with you, maybe when you're traveling, and just making smart choices and not just eating processed stuff and crap and things that aren't nutrient dense, things that just fill you up but are sugary and don't have a fair amount of protein to them. And then certainly your purpose. What's your purpose in life? Do you have a purpose? And of course, I'm talking probably more to my older community at this point. When you're in a young family man, or woman, of course, you feel like you probably have a lot of purpose, right? You have kids, you have neighbors, you have friends, you're part of the community in certain ways, you're professionally connected, all these things. So you feel like a lot of almost too much purpose when you're younger. When you get older, as things kind of fade away, maybe you're retired, less connected to the people in your community, maybe less relatives or family around, you can start to lose what your purpose is. So having a purpose, even if it's just showing up at your local fitness center or your YMCA or wherever it is you're connected, and having a purpose there, I think a little bit of purpose or involvement, volunteer involvement, maybe at your church, stuff like that, is very, very powerful and helps keep you in society, helps keep you engaged with other people. I think that's huge. Well, last but not least, I'll just talk about this last little point. What's a movement-rich life look like versus a movement poor life? Well, movement rich life would be somebody who's walking, maybe somebody who's gardening, hiking, strength training, involved in sports and social activities, what we just talked about. What's a movement poor life look like? Somebody that spends a lot of time sitting at home watching television, right? Or on some kind of electronic device. Somebody who's more isolated than others. Inactivity, right? And avoidance. Avoiding others, avoiding things to do, avoiding life, avoiding purpose. And which person would you rather be? Which person is likely aging better? And I think that answer is abundantly clear. I think if you ask that to any person, 100 different people would give you the same answer. Well, certainly a movement-rich life is somebody who's probably going to age better, right? No one thinks that someone sitting at home watching TV all day long, who lives an isolated life, who's inactive and avoids interaction with others, is somehow having a better a better time of it, and whose body isn't breaking down and degrading faster. So think about that. These are things to reflect on, things to remember as we get older. And you look for that person in your life. Maybe it's you who I'm talking to, or maybe it's somebody that you know, a neighbor who you know probably needs to get up and move a little bit more. Maybe go and try and spend some time with them. We're heavily influenced by the people that we spend some time with. And so if you're somebody that likes movement and likes activity, and go hang around somebody who you care about, who is maybe not as active as they could be or should be. And eventually some of that will probably rub off on them. Maybe show up and bring them a bottle of water and a healthy snack and say, hey, you want to go for a little walk, even if it's just around the block or to the end of the driveway and back, or start with baby steps and build on it from there. But certainly there's somebody that you know of that you can think of, if you're listening to this, that could benefit from a little bit more movement in their life. And start small and build on it. You don't want to try and go for a mile walk if you haven't been doing any kind of exercise at all. There's a lady that I walk past her house every morning with my dogs, and for the longest time I didn't see her. Well, I come to find out one day, I'm walking past, and she was in her garage, and she was on one of those like kneeling crutches, if you will. And I realized that she had fallen and hurt her, I believe it was her hip, and it was either her hip or her knee. And her name's Bonnie, very nice lady. And I said, Bonnie, I was worried about you, and I should have stopped by to say something a few months ago, but I didn't want to pry. And she told me a little bit about her injury and that she'd been kind of out of commission for a while. But she was just getting back at movement again and was so excited to gain back that independence. And so now I see her out walking and going as far as she can go before turning around and walk back, and just how much happier she was that she was kind of back at it, and how isolated she had felt. And I think that's not unlike a lot of people out there who kind of brought it on themselves, not even from injury. They just decided, you know what, movement's that's for young people. I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't need it. I don't think they could be any more wrong. I think you never stop. I mean, look at Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins, right, from all those years ago. I mean, the man hit 100 years old. I don't think he ever stopped moving. And he just seems to have such a spirit about him. And that's just something that I would want for you and that I want for myself. I think that people who continue to kind of dance through life and never stop are the people who have the most fulfilling lives and the longest lives and have the greatest impact on other people. So I would never stop moving. That's my recommendation to you listening. And I thank you for listening, for keeping up with me. Sorry for a couple of points there where I couldn't decide what side of the paper of my notes I was looking at, because it's like double-sided paper and I lost track as my eyes are like trying to find the spot where I left off while I'm chit-chatting here with you. But It's been a real pleasure, as I love talking about this. Obviously, it's been my life's work ever since I was a kid, and looking up to my older brothers and how athletic and fit and strong they were, and I always wanted to be just like them. And I kind of never stopped. Why? Why stop? Because it brings me so much joy. It's why my wife and I turned our garage into a fitness center, just so we have another room in the house that we love to be in, and then the kids can come out, and I'm training my son now, and I get my daughter doing stuff, and it's great when you rub off on everybody in that way, and then hopefully exercise for them becomes part of their life. And I hope it's part of yours. Thank you so much for finding the Strong by Design podcast. If today's was your first episode, hope you enjoyed it. Go back and listen. We have hundreds and hundreds of episodes on all different things, body, mind, and spirit. I thank you so much for stopping by, and I look forward to talking with you next time. God bless.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.